My name is Jacob Reed here. I'm a senior at Muskingum University, and we have a special interview here today on the Muskie Sports Network with class of 1977 graduate Dan Hughes. He is the current head coach of the Seattle Storm, member of the Muskingum Athletic Hall of Fame in 2017, two-time WNBA Coach of the Year, two-time WNBA champion, and he is the leader all-time in games coached. So appreciate you being here, Coach, with us.
My pleasure.
So the first question I have, considering that this has been a season that's been crazy with COVID and everything, you were forced to stay home and not be with your team in the bubble. Talk us through your game day routine and everything that went into making this journey a success.
Well, it certainly was outside the comfort zone for a coach that's coached 42 years. You know, how are we going to approach this year? Because as I looked at it, there was a lot of broken pieces as far as, you know, my involvement with the team. But what it created was kind of a masterpiece of a lot of different pieces working together.
Yeah.
We had gone through, before I was kind of ruled out of the bubble, we had gone through our coaches meeting. We had gone through the draft. We had put the team together. We had done everything. Mm-hmm. And it led to now, okay, how are we going to stay on the same page with each other? So we went through kind of a reevaluation of how I could support the effort there, have communication with the staff and the players, and we came up with a pretty good method. And really what we ended up doing was I kind of kept a dialogue going with the players. It was mostly texting. It was a little bit of maybe a Zoom call or a phone call that might come to me. But to be honest with you, there wasn't, I tried not to get in the way of the teaching that was going on in the bubble. And I talked a lot with the staff, with Gary Kloppenberg, who took over for me and all the defense and did the substitutions, and Noel Quinn, who took over the offense. And we had constant dialogue, not unlike what we had had in the past. And, you know, my day, pretty much, we were playing every other day in the bubble. And I felt like what I could do was a couple things. I could I watched every WNBA game for every team this year. You know, I'm here kind of isolated, and I watched every game, and it led to me kind of taking the role of an advanced scout a bit. I would watch the last game beforehand, write up thoughts on that team. I worked with a young man named Henry Ye, who's a graduate student in analytics, and he had offered his kind of wanted to learn about the WNBA and be involved with us. So I had him involved with me. So we went through a lot of analytics on the teams we were going to play and on ourselves, and had that type of discussion. Then by 8 o'clock in the morning the next day, I'd have all this kind of ready for them when they woke up.
Yeah.
That was a normal day. Game days were a little different. Game days, you know, a lot of times I had my particular place to watch the game. I had 3 TVs that kind of staggered the showing of the game, so I could watch a play, maybe watch it immediately, kind of staggered by 5 seconds here and 5 seconds here, and it'll allow me to communicate at halftime with the team.
Okay. That's, I mean, obviously something that you've never had to do before. So just being able to adapt with everything changing quickly. I mean, and to have the season ending in such a success is obviously like very gratifying and fulfilling for you. So I recently read the Sports Illustrated article that you talked about, written by Greg Bishop. And one of the things that you talked about is important to you is empowering those that are around you. So can you talk a little bit about the growth that you saw from your assistants and your players in like such an odd time?
Yeah, and there really was. You know, Gary Kloppenberg, a year ago when I had cancer surgery and I missed 9 games and then came back, Gary took over for me. And Gary has been a long time assistant in the league. Had been a head coach briefly at Tulsa, but most of his time was spent as an assistant in a defensive role with a lot of teams. And what it really gave Gary an opportunity to do was step forward with a good team and be able to, especially Seattle. Seattle is his home. Seattle was where his father is an NBA coach named Bob Kloppenberg. And we used Bob's system defensively in what we did, but it allowed Gary to really, and Gary's a veteran coach, to kind of step forward. And it was great that the light got shined on him in a lot of situations. And I think he'll look back as a real high point of his career, this opportunity. And Noelle Quinn had played for me on the championship team in 2018. But she had been a high school coach and kind of working her way up a little bit before we hired her. So she had some good presence as a coach as well as, a former player. And she took over the offense. And we had really, really tried to communicate our offense even better this year. We liked what we did. We've always had a really good offensive team, but I think she just did an outstanding job of pretty much just taking all the things that you design in a coach's meeting and making them work, because it doesn't always work. Does it always work like that? But watching them grow has become really something that has certainly been a part of my coaching career, is that how many former assistants, how many former players have gone on, not only on to opportunities, but realized those opportunities. And it's just a thrilling thing for an older coach. Yeah,
absolutely. And so we talked a little bit about you being at home and trying to do everything from home. And so you live with your wife. How has the support from your family, and specifically your wife, helped you get through this time away from your team?
Oh, I think anybody that knows us, and it's all the way back to Muskingum. She is also a Muskingum grad. Everybody that has ever been around us would tell you that she makes me incredibly better. The combination of the team of her and I through the years has been an absolute story. She has always had the ability, I think, to advise me well, to know when to speak up, to know when not to tell me when I'm wrong, all those things. I think a lot of people would really point to whatever success I have had and credit it to the fact that she's been my partner on this journey and my wife on this journey that we have. And our kids were here. Now my son's at the Air Force Academy, and he is back there in his senior year, but my daughter is here with the 4 grandkids and her husband, who is also in the Air Force. And that was our bubble. That was it. And I would go see my mother on a weekly basis, who still lives here in Ohio. But that was my life. And having the bubble include family like that. And my kids are really good. They don't look at dad as some sort of, well, he's the head coach, I can't talk to him. No, they're very real with me. And you need blunt honesty sometimes in life. And my family, I know they support me. They really know how to talk to me. And, but I also need to know what I need to know. And they help me do that.
That's great. And so getting back to basketball here, the team that you guys played in the finals was the Las Vegas Aces. And so you spent a number of years with the Silver Stars, who are now the Aces, and you have some familiarity with their team and their program. Was it difficult or helpful for you in any way going up against your former team, knowing that you had drafted and assembled a good majority of their roster?
It's a little bit of both.
Mm-hmm.
I've, as you said, I've coached a lot of games. So what you find when you've coached a lot of games in a league, that you end up going against players that had played for you or you had drafted. It just happens because it's kind of the cycle. And it's the same thing with, I think 5 of the head coaches in the WNBA were my assistants. So you're coaching against them too. Now, Bill Lambier, obviously his path and I didn't intersect. Yeah. But as you mentioned, there were times on the court where there were 4 players that I drafted on the Aces. And, I love them to death, but, when you're in the game, you're in the game. And I didn't really think a lot about it, except one time I was looking out on the court and I noticed there were, and we went through an incredibly good period with the Silver Stars, and then our players retired. Mm-hmm. And the last couple years, we were going through a lot of growing, where you start to rebuild your team. But there was a part of me that was very, very proud that they were in this game with us, because Las Vegas finished the job to get a team good enough to be in the finals, but we started it in a lot of ways. And so it was a mixed feeling. I have good relationships with all those young ladies that we drafted. And Derricka Hamby did not play in the finals, and that broke my heart because I drafted her, and she has really blossomed. She was the 6th player of the year, has a little girl now, a lot of things that we just treasure. And we were fortunate enough to, she's involved us with her daughter, and we know her very, very well. But I felt bad, very bad. She couldn't play in the game, or we would have had one more on the court at those times.
Right. Yeah. So to kind of shift gears here and look specifically at your team, the bubble and everything that's gone on isn't all the adversity that you guys have faced. In 2019, both Sue Bird and Brianna Stewart didn't play at all, and you were without them for the whole season. Can you talk about how your team grew and kind of came together and molded them into even the team that they are today, having to play without 2 of your best players?
Well, it's funny. I work with USA Basketball. Mm-hmm. Was last winter, actually, Cheryl Reeve and I took of the pool of players with USA Basketball. We took them on a Eastern college, a Western college, and then we went to Argentina and went to Serbia and whatever. But one day after practice, Diana Taurasi said, "Hey, coaches, what was your favorite team? Now, aside from your championship teams, what was your favorite team?" Well, that one last year was probably my favorite.
Yeah.
And the reason being is that, in 2018, the best duo in the league was Sue Bird and Brianna Stewart. They were number 1, and we didn't have either of them for any game in 2019.
Yeah.
And we had to really redefine some roles, and people had to grow. But it was not a lost year. If you really saw our team play this year, you saw the depth that was developed in 2019. And that's why it's such a favorite, to me. We won 18 games, won a playoff series, those type of things. Not a championship run, but in its own way, it got to a level of about as good as, you want your team to be. You never want to lose, but you're hitting the upper levels of how good you can be. And that team, that was not a lost year. Jordan Canada really stepped up. She was huge in the finals. Mercedes Ruff stepped up. She was there. Natasha Howard was able to become our leading scorer and defensive player of the year. Alicia Clark took a huge step from leadership. So we grew. We probably did as much in 2019 to set the stage for 2020 as anything we could have done.
Right. And to kind of add off that, so as I mentioned, both Brianna Stewart and Sue Bird were injured, and Brianna Stewart was able to come back again this year and just play the same MVP caliber level that she did in 2018. Can you talk about how special it is to be able to coach and be a part of a player that is so good and so talented?
Well, and she is, when I coached her in 2018, I felt like I am watching the greatest women's player on the planet.
Yep.
She was that good. Now she suffers overseas. She suffers an Achilles tendon tear. But I know a lot of things. The reason Brianna Stewart's so good, obviously, she got 7'1" wingspan. She's talented offensively. She's a rim protector. She's all the things, and a wonderful student of the game. But she's tough,
yep.
And I used to walk by her and I said, I know you're really good and you're blessed, all those type of things. But the thing I love most about you is your toughness. She's tough. She knows she's a great teammate. And I knew that she would put in the work, and she did. There'd be times where I would look to my left and she might be in the gym. I remember seeing her. We were in LA playing a game, and she did some rehab in LA. And we were practicing at this community thing. And I happened to look over to my left and just watched all the work she was putting in from therapy, things that she could do with the ball. And I thought to myself, this is, and she did that every day.
Yeah.
And it led to her coming back and playing at a level that, puts her in the greatest in the game.
Right. And another one of the greatest in the game also on your team is Sue Bird. And as we mentioned, she missed all of 2019, but it was back for this championship run, which was her fourth now with the Storm in total. Can you talk about her as a leader and how her building and growing your team into who they are today is just kind of, like I said, molded the team into the championship that they are?
Well, she is, when you're talking about on the court leadership,
mm-hmm.
It is a masterpiece to watch her at work. And I inherited that. I came in to somebody who was pretty well defined regard to that. The one thing we have done well is to make that a focal piece of our team. And everybody kind of knows Sue has the ability to provide the highest level of leadership because she's on the court with them. And the other thing, and it goes back to a similar thing like Stewie, I've never seen a player who, as they continue to age and go through different injuries, what have you, that works so hard on a daily basis. I tell you, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure where Sue is right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I am telling you, she is eating the right things. She is training the right way. She is getting her sleep. All the things that give her a chance to continue to excel at the stage of her career like that. And you just don't see very many people like that. It is a beautiful thing to be around.
Mm-hmm.
And, luckily, I've done a good job of not screwing her up. I think she continues to be a great story.
Yeah, and just the way you describe her, I mean, it's really comparable a lot to how people talk about LeBron James. I mean, they're both in their 17th season. They both just won their fourth NBA championship, and they talk a lot about just the hard work they put into doing the right things with their body. I mean, just playing the game in the right way. And I mean, it's obviously paying off for her in the long run. And she's had a very amazing career, to say the least. But stepping away from the Storm, as you mentioned before, you're also heavily involved in the U.S. Basketball women's national team. So can you talk about how working with the best women's players in the world has helped develop you as a coach?
Well, it's helped honestly, a great deal, because what it has enabled me to do is continue to learn from new experiences, learn from other players. I'm really fortunate. I coach at a level where I'm coaching adults, in most cases. I'm coaching people in their 20s and 30s, and these are lifelong professionals. And my eyes are wide open, because being around these great players that represent USA, I'm just soaking it in as all that I can. And the other thing that it does is it takes me around the world. I learn a lot from, you're exposed a lot of times in your own league or in those things in the United States, but I get exposed to coaches from all over the world. And it really, really, I have brought things back that we use from the games that I've been a part of, coaching under Don Staley and with Jen Rosati and with Cheryl. And that section teaches me a lot. But watching the other players play, other teams and what they do, and it's even helped our team. Ezzy is a 20-year-old rookie for us this year that I saw in the World Cup when she was 18 or 19 and playing for Australia. And she got in the game late and just really played well. And then she enters the draft at 19, and we take her with the 12th pick, the last pick of the first round, because we'd won the championship. But she comes over and she had a great impact on our team. And I, really got to know her because I coached against her in the World Cup finals, and I got to see her play numerous times. And I knew this was a special player, but from another country.
Yeah, that's great. So to shift gears here towards Muskingum, how have your experiences as a student helped grow you into the person and coach that you are today?
The thing that Muskingum did for me, I can't say that I was on campus. I don't know if I defined all the things that I was good at, but what it did, it prepared me for a great life afterwards. I wasn't a great player. I played baseball and I was okay. And I played basketball and I was on the team, but what happened was that it put me on a path that has illuminated my life after Muskingum. Coach Burson made me, I coached the freshmen and was like a student assistant. And he got me started on those type of things. I met my wife here. So many things. Teachers had a teaching impact on me, which is very much what I do. And I learned that, if I can teach at a high level of things I do know, maybe I don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. I just have to be a guy who can communicate what I know at the highest level. And they taught me so many things. I wish I could have been a better player. I wish I could have been a better student. But I'll tell you what, I wouldn't. What it did for me was a heck of a lot greater than what I did for Muskingum. Yeah. And so it's been a great journey, and one that has interwoven back and forth with people and with the university to the point that it's a huge story. If there's any success to the Hughes family, Muskingum's got an awful lot to do with it.
Yeah. So in 2017, you were inducted into the Muskingum Athletic Hall of Fame. And obviously that's a great honor. So whenever you heard the news that you were going to be inducted, what was going through your head when you got and received that call?
Well, I don't know if you've ever seen the I think last year, Jimmy Johnson and on the football, and Bill Cowher. They showed them when they told them they were going in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But that elation, I was in the Denver airport. We had just seen our son, and we're flying out of Denver, and it pure joy, absolutely fills your heart up in certain ways that you just can't express. Because not only because the recognition that you know, that you're being chosen, but the people you're going in with,
right?
The people that have, I know a lot of people that are part of that Muskingum Hall of Fame, and to join with them, oh my gosh, it's humbling,
Right.
and very thankful, very blessed, you know, in a lot of ways. And one of the greatest probably moments I've had, you know, was just sharing that with my family.
Yeah. And to add to that, another great honor that you received was being able to deliver the commencement speech for the class of 2019 here. So what did that mean to you as an alumni to be given that honor?
Well, to be a part of a graduating class, and to share that moment with reflection. I haven't told this story, but I will mention it. You know, I had contracted cancer. They were scheduling the surgery, and I said, "Is there any way we can schedule the surgery after I give the speech at Muskingum for commencement?"
Yeah.
I don't know if my priority is right.
Right.
The doctor was great. He said, "Yeah, we'll do it on the Monday or Tuesday." I think it was a Tuesday. I checked in on. We'll do it the Tuesday after you give that speech. That's how much it meant to me.
Yeah.
I knew that this was a moment that to be able to share with that graduating class and to remember, you know, our graduation. Knowing how important that is. And I came from a family that nobody had gone, maybe a cousin had gone to college, but no immediate people in my family had gone to college. So it was a big deal. You know, when we graduated, that was a celebration, you know. And so I know what it is, and I could see it in so many of the graduates' eyes and the families.
So to kind of wrap things up here, what advice do you think you would give students, not necessarily here just at Muskingum, but in general, that are interested in having careers in the sports industry and coaching?
Well, first thing I would give them is later is something greater. You know, we're on a path in the world nowadays that we want everything kind of like right now.
Right.
And coaching's a very difficult profession to always find success right now or to find the job that you want. And so if I could give any student anything, I would give them the persistence to keep putting one foot in front of the other, you know, to get to a point where the greater part comes in later. You know, maybe you're lucky enough that everything falls into place, but most of us, that's not kind of how it goes. In most cases, it takes a level of persistence. It takes the ability to keep going, you know, in regard to it. And then, you know, the one thing I have been blessed is, you know, I'm an older coach, but probably my greatest moments have come later in my career, not earlier. Boy, I would miss this if I didn't stick around to kind of see what it looks like.
Right. Well, I think that's all we've got here. I just want to thank you again for coming on here and being willing to talk to us. I'm sure, as I mentioned before, you're probably really busy right now with just winning the championship again, but I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. So,
well, it's my pleasure. There are so many people on campus, from Jeff Haycock to Gary Golden to Coach Jim Burson, who lives close, and Steve Kokovich, and people that there's not a day goes by that they didn't have an influence on me as I walk this life. And so Muskingum means a great deal to me. And I look forward to the opportunity to return soon.
Yep. Well, I appreciate it. And you're watching on the Muskie Sports Network, all things Muskingum athletics.